Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center, man. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be studying some film on Tua. So this very first play, we started off with a gotta have a situation of 3rd and 8. So obviously you know that when most teams play Miami, most teams are probably going to come out in some type of too high defense. Too high, for those who may not know, means that you're going to have two safeties deep opposed to one. So the reason behind that is because you have speedsters, guys that can all out, flat out fly on the offensive side of the ball for the weapons receiver wise. You got Tyreek Hill and you got Jalen Waddle. So teams want to combat that by keeping too high. That way their corners aren't left on the island out there with those guys one-on-one. So look on this very first play. So the thing was, if you really look at it, he really had a two-way go, honestly. And what I mean by that is that, okay, if you look at the completion, obviously was on the right side of the field going to Jalen Waddle. Now we're gonna take a look to the left side of the field. Now they run some type of, like, they tried to run like a natural pick route or a rub route, however you want to terminize it. They ran a natural pick route to try to get one of those corners to kind of either not necessarily run into each other, but have to change the course of their direction, which puts them in a trail position in man-to-man, which is what they're in. So like I said, they had two highs that was just kind of their thing, was we going to stay deep and try to stay over the top of everything, and everything else underneath that is going to be man. So obviously knowing that, you had a two-way go. So you had the pick route on the opposite side right here where you could have threw it to the guy who has a step on the corner. And then you also had Jalen Waddle. It looked like he had a pretty clean pocket too. Yeah, so for the most part, he had a pretty clean pocket, but for the most part, obviously he still made the best decision. Also, like I said, you want to emphasize the point, because these are the downs that, that makes or breaks, a team, honestly, in the games won and lost. You in a 3rd and 8, obviously you're not in field goal range. So if you don't get this, you're punting the ball and putting your defense and putting their offense back on the field. So they, 3rd and 8 is very important to be able to keep the sticks moving to go and at least be able to put up some points, whether it be a touchdown or a field goal. And with that completion, it allows them that. And he did a good job too. It just kind of throwing off anticipation. I'm pretty sure he's seen that Waddle kind of had a step on him, and he just broke that corner route towards the sidelines to where the safety wasn't able to drive down on it, and he was able to keep his receiver protected as well. So in this play right here, and two, man, I hate that I don't have a lot of all 22 film to be able to kind of just show y'all the whole spectrum of things, you know what I mean? And I hate that I don't have the best editing software to kind of be able to pinpoint things the way that I would want to, but eventually I'm gonna get all that stuff. So, just bear with me. But right here on this play right here, one of the things that we don't talk about enough when it comes to quarterbacks is, throwing with anticipation and even their accuracy, right? So the accuracy, for one, we're going to touch on the accuracy. So look at the accuracy and where he was able to place the ball with Jalen Waddle. So let's just say if he kind of throws this ball a little under, Jalen Waddle now has to turn around to try to readjust to make a catch, right? So when he makes that catch, you got to think about it like this. When he makes that catch now, he doesn't really have the chance to get yards after the catch, because obviously, football is a game of inches, you know what I mean? And just a few inches could lead to the difference being in you being able to come up with points and not being able to come up with points. You know what I'm saying? So with him having to readjust, if he didn't put it on the money, it would take away from the opportunities of that. Also, now we're going to go to anticipation. So throwing with anticipation. Now, it takes a trust and a bond from the quarterback and the receiver for the quarterback to be saying, okay, I'm expecting you to be here at this particular time. So in order for me to throw in anticipation, I have to let the ball go really before you even separate or come out of your break. You know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why I believe that that's very keen is because you have to think, especially when we're talking about the NFL. We're dealing with some of the most skilled athletes in the world. Obviously, that's why they're NFL. So you got to think about it. The minute that a quarterback sees an opening, the defenders see that same opening. So if you hesitate at all on throwing that ball, that can be the difference in you actually having an opportunity to make that play and the defense having an opportunity to drive down to prevent it, whether that be a pass breakup or whether that be an interception. So it kind of goes back to the same thing, and being able to protect your receiver too. You know what I mean? So accuracy, doing that, and then also too throwing anticipation allows you to be able to protect your receiver to where they can put themselves in a position where they can kind of defend themselves and brace for the hit that may be coming up on them. So this play right here was a 3rd down play. I just went ahead and got it from this angle, so just letting you guys know the down and distance and the situation. So this right here is the embodiment of kind of what the NFL is. And what I mean by that is, you always hear me talk about as a player, can you play on script and off script? And so in so many ways, that means, can you execute when everything goes right on the play, and can you instinctive instinctively adapt to when everything goes wrong. So what I mean by that is that idealistically, as a quarterback, you would love to be throwing from a clean pocket every pass play you have. That's just not the reality, especially when you get to the National Football League, because guys are so much more talented than it was when you were in college and in high school. So right here you have Von Miller. I wish I could have put the play in there where Von Miller was able to put a crazy spin move on that right tackle, and I'm talking about just blew past him. And Tua being it by that being a gotta have it situation, right? You always hear me talk about gotta have it. It was a 3rd and 8. We have to get this completion to move the sticks and keep our offense on the field to try to, eat up time and to try to be able to go down there and put up points. So he stays in the pocket knowing that it's a possibility that he may still take the hit, but he's able to stand tall in the pocket regardless of the pressure and be able to put the pass on the money. And he done it against man-to-man coverage, meaning that most quarterbacks, especially at the college level, they may not try to throw certain passes because they're saying that the separation isn't there from the cornerback and the receiver. Well, realistically, when you get to the NFL, it's not going to be a whole lot of separation on plays. And if you really want to be honest, a lot of times with explosive plays, especially in the NFL, it comes with yards after catch, if you really want to be completely honest. So that's why as a quarterback, too, you have to be accurate with putting the ball on the money to allow him to have that option. But Tua did a good job at putting his ball on the money and also, giving him an opportunity to get some yards after the catch and even giving him the opportunity to maybe brace for a hit that possibly was coming. So right here, we got another gotta have it situation, a 3rd and 2. Obviously, we got to get the first down to move the sticks, to be able to keep our offense on the field, to try to go down the field and put up points, and to try to keep their offense on the sideline, depending on how good their offense is. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. You never want an offense to kind of catch rhythm. The longer you keep them on the sideline, the harder it is for them to catch rhythm. That's why converting on 3rd downs when you find yourself in those situations are so vital. So you get an idealistic matchup on the outside with Tyreek Hill, and obviously, man, that's a no-brainer. Tua didn't even have to use a lot of thinking on that. He saw that they probably had a single field safety, which was Buda Baker. So he knew that it was going to be a one-on-one matchup. And he knew that based off of how I placed the ball, there's no way Buda's going to really be able to get over there to help him over the top, just because it's going to be more of an outbreaking route. He does a good job at kind of just, like I said, once again, throwing with anticipation, kind of just showing, and then you kind of want to, and if you see, obviously with a single high, especially single high, because the single high safety most of the time is going to be reading the quarterback's eyes. So if you look at Tua, he kind of went through reads, meaning that he didn't look one way. He kind of looked from the left to the right. So if you look, right, so that keeps Buda Baker at bay, because Buda's reading, he's reading Tua's eyes to kind of try to see where he's going to throw, to try to anticipate where to break to the ball. So if you work from the left to the right and then you let the ball go with anticipation, it takes away from the opportunities of that single high being able to come over the top and make help. So give help. So he did a good job of that, being able to look him off with his eyes, and two, just being able to just, put that thing on the money to where it just kind of fell right there in Tyreek Hill's hands. And once again, it allowed him to even get a few extra yards after the catch, too, to try to put them in better position in terms of field positioning. So right here on this play, we got another gotta have it situation. Now, this is where a quarterback like Tua that can utilize his legs become very, 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 very dangerous. So especially in the red area situation, too. The easiest way to score in the red area, obviously, is running, because it's so condensed down. Sometimes passing can cause a lot of confusion. A lot of bad plays can happen from that. So if you're not able to get a run game going consistently, having a quarterback like Tua that's mobile will be able to do so. But you see, it's a gotta have a situation, 3rd and 10, man. Like I always say, we want to put up points. We want to be able to score touchdowns as opposed to kicking field goals. It looks like the Cardinals was in some man coverage, and it's like they ran a lot of man against Miami in this game right here. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the weaknesses to man, especially when it comes to dealing with mobile quarterbacks, is the fact that most of the time defenders' eyes are locked on their mans, opposed to zone, where their eyes are kind of watching the quarterback. But in man-to-man, most of the time, their eyes are on watching their man. So just think about if you got guys that's running routes vertically down the field, cornerback-wise, whether they're in the trail position or whether they're in a good position, most of the time their backs is to the quarterback. So they don't even know that the quarterback has started running up until either somebody on the sideline is telling them, or up until he's already got the first down. And obviously that's where a disciplined defense is going to give up the field. Well, is going to give up that, because we can't Well, it depends on once he crosses the line of scrimmage. Obviously, you know he's not going to throw it, but a lot of times too, you don't want to abandon your assignment and come off of your guy and allow him to lob it up over your head for a big play or for a touchdown. So my Tua was real, showed his, obviously his generalship on the field, just knowing that okay, there's nothing there. Let me not force it. Let me not throw it. Let me not throw a turnover, interception, or let me not take an unnecessary sack, especially if it's going to make us. If we're going to take a sack, it's going to pull us out of possible field goal range. And if we throw interception, we're going to lose a possession. So let me just use my legs to be able to pick up the first down. So right here, man, we have a pretty interesting play. Obviously, as you can see, they're not. It's not necessarily a guy to have a situation because if you don't get it on this first down, well, on the second down, you still got one more down after that. Obviously, depending on the completion, that'll be the down and distance, depending on if it remains 3rd and 6 or if you did a little short pass that made it 3rd and 2, whatever the case may be. But another thing that we judge games won and lost off of is the obviously it's the turnover margin, but then also explosive plays. How many were you able to create and how many did you give up? So that's also one of the categories that comes into games being won and lost. And then explosive plays a lot of times too are just, demoralizing to a defense because it's like you get all of those yards in just one play opposed to, kind of just doing like getting a little tic-tac yardage, like 5 yards here, 3 yards here, 10 yards here, something like that. So on this play right here, I was trying to analyze the play and just see if there was a possibility that maybe this play could have been a touchdown opposed to just a completion. But then when I'm looking at it, it looks like the Bills might have been in a single high, which would have had Damar Hamlin all the way at the top of the field. That's why I say, man, I wish that I could have that all 22 film for you guys so we can really be able to dive into it a little bit deeper because we can't really see it out of frame. But I believe that they were in a single high. So basically, obviously, what we talk about when you're in a single high, your objective is going to be to read the quarterback because you're trying to anticipate, okay, where is he going? That lets me know where to go. You know what I mean? And if you're going up against a quarterback that's good with his eyes and being able to look you off a lot of the times, that can create opportunities for plays down the field. But right here, they had a double move, obviously, and that might have kind of threw Damar Hamlin for a loop too, thinking that Tyreek Hill made because, as a single high, you have to stay deep over everything. So when Tyreek Hill did this out and up, it might have made him think that he was going out and, okay, now I got to just stay over the top of anything else. So it allowed for him to kind of hesitate and it allowed for Tua to be able to put the ball in. But even if you say, okay, Tua kind of threw it behind and Tyreek had to readjust, well, if he would have put it anywhere over Tyreek Hill, to try to allow him to run under it, who knows? Damar Hamlin probably breaks on that ball and make that play. So he did a good job at putting it to where only the receiver can get it. Because obviously the corner, he's kind of in la-la land, not looking around to get his head to locate the ball. He just kind of just puts his arms up. And obviously Damar Hamlin was not going to be able to get over there in time. So when you look at it in retrospect, honestly, to me, that turned out to be a good pass because for one, you was able to move. You was to get an explosive play and put yourself in a good position in terms of the red area, and obviously too you were able to not turn the ball over, and then you were able to keep your receiver protected on the play as well. So that's a win in my opinion. All right, so we got another guy to have a situation. We got a 3rd and 7. So you look at the Dolphins they use motion on this play. So motion can be used for a multitude of things. Motion can be used for one to try to identify the defense that they're in because more times than not, if you motion a guy and that outside corner follows him, then more likely a lot of the times then that's probably going to be man coverage. Now, if that guy just abandons that assignment and kind of just jumps out to a certain area to let you know that they're probably in a zone and they're kind of going to spot drop, it just all depends on the principles within that defense. So right here, they're caught up in man-to-man coverage. They did a good job in terms of protection. So it looks like, too, that maybe Tua could have saw that they were blitzing, too, and he was able to tell the running back to stay in the backfield to try to just add a level of protection for him so they can be able to allow for that route to develop. And he got Waddle matched up in a one-on-one matchup. Obviously, an elite receiver like Waddle with his speed, more times than not in those one-on-one battles, you like the idea of he's probably going to come up with that. So even it looks like he did a pretty good job, too, at even kind of just throwing with the anticipation on it, kind of figuring that Waddle had him beat and kind of knew exactly where Waddle was going to be. Now, also, he threw a pretty difficult pass, which is an out route. A lot of the times, out route especially can be undercut in man-to-man coverage and picked off, so he did a good job. And then sometimes, when you're trying so hard to avoid it being undercut and picked off, you throw it too far over the sideline to where nobody can get to the ball. So he did a good job at kind of finding that balance and putting it there. But also, too, that's where throwing with anticipation comes into play because once again, like I always say, once the quarterback sees that guy is open, the defense sees that guy is open as well. So if you hesitate and throw that ball a little a little immaturely, then a lot of times those can lead to interceptions or pass breakups. All right, so you got another guy to have a situation right here. Now, this wasn't a guy to have it in terms of the down and distance, in terms of it being third down or fourth down, but I say it's got to have it because it's a red area. We get in the red area, man, you want to come up with points. Like I say, you prioritize touchdowns over field goals, but at the end of the day, you still want to come up with some type of points when you get into the red area. So on this play right here, we show Tua displays one of his attributes that he does have, and that's his mobility. Now, obviously, you know, just like I said early on in the video, that quarterbacks like Tua who can run become so much more dangerous in the red area just because you can have everything defended in terms of the pass. But if a guy can get out, if the pass rush for one isn't able to get to him and he can step up and get out the pocket, he can cause you a lot of damage down there. So right here, you have to identify too, what does he, when he run, is he running to run or is he running to throw? So he does a very good job at, you know, not having the initial read. I'm not quite sure if it was communication that kind of was off right there, or was he expecting Tyreek Hill to kind of probably break that off a little bit earlier. But the Bills did a good job initially at being able to cover that, obviously, right? So when you're in the red area, it slows down the effectiveness of Tyreek Hill now, because you don't have to deal with the speed vertically as you do when you like at midfield or anything, you know, shorter than the red area. So they did a good job at covering it initially. Tua just, you know, did a good job at extending the play, allowing Waddle to be able to, you know, run free and try to reroute himself and create an opportunity, which he did. Like I always say, man, these are one of the things that we look at, you know, playing on script and off script. You know, like I always say, on script is when things are going the way that they're supposed to go, when pass protection holds up, when receivers are able to separate. Now, off script is when pass protection don't hold up and receivers aren't able to separate. What do you do in that situation? And right here, Tua showed you that he can play off script with being able to come up with 7 points in the red area. So we got another gotta have it situation, man. And then see, this is a gotta have it. A 3rd and 13, a place that you do not want to find yourself on third down. You never want to find yourself in third and long for one, but you most definitely don't ever want to find yourself in third and forever, like a situation like that. But the pass rush was able to get there to the to Tua. It looked like they only rushed 4, but for whatever reason, you know, they didn't really do that good of a job with keeping those guys blocked. They were able to kind of get in and kind of put pressure on Tua, and initially he didn't have anything there. So once again, you see one of his attributes that he has is his legs, being able to utilize his legs, you know. So the guys rush past him, behind him, he's able to step up, so no containment is there. So now he can release, and either he can choose to run or he can choose to run to throw. And looking at Tua's one of those guys that's kind of like a CJ Stroud and kind of like a Patrick Mahomes. They will run, but their whole thing is keeping their eyes downfield when they run, because they're trying to create plays. They're not necessarily just trying to rely on their legs. They're trying to create plays down the field, and that's exactly what they do. And what did I say also early on, too, in this video? I was talking about explosive plays, right? So you take this one right here. You got, it's first quarter, 12 minutes into the game, 0-0 score, right? So guess what? Opposed to saying, okay, if I run for this and get those yards, or if I even possibly throw the check down route right there to the running back, to the running back, and he gets those yards, I mean, it might be a first down, but if I'm able to get the ball down the field, drive the ball down the field like this, but then that comes with having that camaraderie with the quarterback and receivers to know, hey, man, when I get out this pocket, reroute yourself because I'm looking to throw. Now, if it's a situation where I have a clear lane, then yeah. But other than that, reroute yourself because I'm trying to drive that ball downfield, and they do a good job at that on this play right here. Tua does a good job at being able to extend the play, get out of the pocket, and be able to create an explosive play down the field. Jalen Waddle does a good job at kind of identifying what's going on the play and be able to create something. Like I always said too, I always say this. These are the things when we talk about what makes elite players, well, especially quarterbacks. That's what I'm going to say because we're reviewing quarterbacks. When we talk about what makes elite quarterbacks, to me, it's the ability to play on script and off script. So for those who may not know, what's on script? On script is when pass protection holds up, when everything goes the way that it's supposed to go, the way that you practicing. When you practicing this stuff, you're not practicing it with the possibility of it not working. You're practicing it with the possibility of it working. So some guys that when it doesn't go as planned, they collapse after that. But you got some guys when things don't go as planned, it's okay, now I can make something happen from this, and they make something happen from it. So to me, those are the qualities when we're talking about elite quarterbacks and good quarterbacks. Can they make those plays routinely? Not just once, not just twice, but can they make those plays routinely? And that's kind of a deciding factor in that. But man, I think I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do with this is, because I don't want to make this video too long, I'm gonna make this into maybe a 2-part, 3-part video depending on the situation, because I'm gonna do the offensive plays he made good, and then I'm gonna do one breaking down the interceptions too, because highlights only tell one side of the story. They're not putting interceptions in there. So we're gonna also go through and we're gonna break down film of the interceptions. When was those interceptions coming? What part of the game were they vital keys that end up costing them the game, or things like that, so we can kind of get a better understanding of how good some of these quarterbacks really are. But man, as if for this video, for part 1 of this video, man, do me a big favor, man, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell turned on, and where you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.